Hey there. Welcome back to the Impact Driven Leader podcast. This is your host, Tyler Dickerhoof. If you're listening, wherever you listen to podcasts, man, glad you're listening in. If you're a subscriber, great. If not, hit that subscribe button, add this to your library. Or if you're watching on YouTube where I post all the videos as well, great to see you. Make sure you subscribe to YouTube as well, as there's a lot of other material. My thought of the day, coffee chat, things that I share go live Monday through Friday on LinkedIn, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, all those things. You can catch me. But today, I'm excited to share this episode, share my conversation with Arkevious Armstrong. So Arkevious and I just met each other last week. We were both speaking at a friend's event, connected, has an amazing story. He has a story where being incarcerated, starting when he was charged with attempted murder, which he said he committed when he was 13, ended up having another charge when he was 19, spent a long time incarcerated, but was transformed. And it was through that transformation that he serves today through his organization, Step Up to Leadership. Man, talking about leadership, we have a tremendous conversation where he shares kind of where the journey started and really pokes I don't want to say pokes, points to where a large part of our world is broken. It's something that you and I experience too every day, even though maybe we don't live in an urban environment or a drug-infested environment where there's shootings going on every day. But this is what we talk about. It's when that becomes normal route of survival, it's hard to comprehend that's different. There's a value to learn out of this. I'll share it at the end. I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Arkevious Armstrong. All right, Arkevious. So you were telling me about your starting into the foster system. You were 6, right? And there were 6 of you siblings altogether. Okay.
It was 6. I'm the baby boy out of 6.
Yeah. What's the spread between the oldest and you?
About 10 or 11 years old.
Okay. Yeah. So your oldest was like 16.
About 15, 16 years old before I was born.
Almost old enough to I might want to do this on my own.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think for the more when you the fact that you look at that, if I was forced to grow up fast, he was as well. So, but we all grew up apart.
Okay. So you were all ended up getting to split different homes. You didn't get to go to.
Yeah. So we all grew up in separate households, and we all have the same mom. But my mom had a struggling issue with her drug addiction. And so I used to always, growing up, I didn't understand it, Tyler. I questioned a lot of things. And the things that I questioned the most was, why do I have to go through this? I was old enough to understand that it wasn't right. And I was old enough to understand that I don't like it.
Which part wasn't right? The fact that you got separated or that you were even in that position?
Both. The separation is one of the things that, when my mom had a struggling issue with her drug addiction, social service came in and took her kids. And everyone was able to go to a relative, but no one came and got me. So I remember being left in a room and no one came and grabbed me that night. And I ended up going to a family, which was a Caucasian family. And I remember just being isolated. I felt abandoned. I felt lost. I felt it was just so much emotions. And, but I was in 2 foster homes because once I found placement, they had to put me into another, because that the first foster parent was like an emergency foster parent.
Okay. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So almost like we'll hold you here until we find you another. Totally. That's what that situation, right? So, but we all grew up separated, but we was close but separated, and so the things that I feel like that made me grow up so fast is that I was put in situations and circumstances to make me focus on more survival instinct instead of, learning. Like education wasn't a priority in my household. I ended up going back to school, getting my high school diploma, the first one in my family, and the first one in my family to go back and get a college degree. but it was one of the things that, we wasn't taught, we wasn't shown how to live in certain situations that can better us as far as as a family, as a whole, because of the situations from violence, drugs, and addictions that we saw every single day, Tyler. The thing that got me the most, that, at 12, I started using drugs, strung out on drugs bad, Tyler, like marijuana. Started drinking alcohol at 12 and 13 years old. I was doing cocaine and marijuana at 13 years old. And, I just started taking the turn for the worse. And when you look at it, but I started being the example that my brothers taught me. My brothers showed me this. They taught me this. And so I'm selling drugs and smoking weed.
So is that what they were doing? They got into the drug scene or whatever to survive as well, and then they brought you in.
Yes, that's okay. I was amazed by the lifestyle.
Okay.
The lifestyle that I saw every single day. I mean, it's almost like the movies. When you be looking at the movies and you see the drugs and the infestation of the violence and all of that, the struggle, that was my life. And I think one of the biggest things that when you look at who I am today, I am an example of perseverance, hope, the example of not giving up and fighting through, writing books, traveling the world, just doing all the things that I wasn't exposed to, and so giving our young men, because me having an organization now, giving young men the blueprint, the platform, and showing them how, regardless of where you come from, the mistakes and what you was taught, here's another way. So it's been a hell of a journey. I'm gonna be straight up. It's been a hell of a journey, but it's worth it. It's all worth it, man. And so, like we was talking about earlier, I was forced to grow up fast. You talking about the struggle where not having food, lights, running hot water. My everyday life was about survival. So I had to jump off the porch and survive on my own.
Yeah. So let's jump, we'll kind of come back to some of this because I know there's a lot to come back to, but I want to jump to what you're doing now and, Arkinspire and just the step up to leadership, all the stuff you're doing now. So, for the audience, you and I are going to be speaking together here in a couple days from the recording time with our good friend, John Eads. It's how we got connected. I'm excited to kind of hear more from you, but what I love about this and just this whole concept of the impact-driven leader, the podcast I do is about leadership. And I want to hear from you because to me, it's going to create a backwards web to why is the impact that you can make today, as you talk about it, reaching out to kids, talking to kids, wherever, sharing your experiences. Why is leadership the pathway?
Got you. I feel like leadership is the pathway simply because it's a guidance. It's a blueprint. I feel like it's again, like John event, it's a catalyst to how to build character, how to build structure on principles, but also how to be an example. When you look at leadership, you look at somebody who leads and not just direct, and starting an organization called Step Up to Leadership is stepping up to the forefront and carving out a platform and paving a way for other people to follow. And, I feel like the best example to do and to be that in leadership based off experience, the things that we learn, the things that we overcome, the things that we experience, we use those things to help other people, to help other people grow, to help other people to overcome, to help other people become better individuals. That's leadership to me. When I have an example in my head, when I see a leader, it's a pack of wolves and the leader never leads the pack. He's always in the back. He's making sure that he sees everything. He's making sure everybody's in order. Everybody's going in the direction they need. And that's like mentorship, right? We all need mentorship. We all need good leadership. I'm a very strong man of God, and my faith is so strong and concreted. And when you look at leadership, that's what, to me, Jesus, he displayed by his actions, the way he carried himself, the way he walked, the way he served people, the way he helped people, the way he always put himself in a position that, if people needed him or whatever the case may be, he was there. So leadership is so important, man, not only in the communities, in church, in the households, just in society, period.
There's something that I think when you say that, this to be an example really drives. If I'm going to be an example for others, if I spot that, this is a way to impact people, man, I got to do it first.
You got to do it
first. I heard that as much from you, and maybe this wasn't a piece of it, but it sounds like it. It's like, I'm going to talk about this because I've been able to, through the process, transform. And I know if I were to go back, I got to keep myself accountable here. And how I can keep myself accountable is by helping other people go through that same process. That's what I heard.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Where do you think, and if you look back, or the challenges you have talking to people, where does that become a struggle?
When you saying say that, break it down.
The idea of, we're calling people to step up in leadership, right? We're calling people to engage and, be better, be that example for others to follow. To me, the hardest person to lead is yourself. And where do we, fail in leading ourselves? I believe there's one area, but I'd love to hear it from you. It's like, we don't give ourselves grace. We have these insecurities. We have different factors that are barriers around us, but we don't give ourselves grace through that, thinking, if I'm not perfect, then I can't be that example.
Well, listen, you asked the question and you answered it, man, because that was what I was going to say.
Okay. Well, I was trying to give you some framework, but I want to hear your experiences there. Like, where is that shown true, or say, yeah, dude, it's been hard, but this is what happened and why it was even more meaningful.
And man, you hit the nail dead on the head, is that giving ourselves grace. But I always share with people, making sure that you're right. You're together. That you're whole and complete. And, it's hard to lead when you're not yourself or where you need to be. And as a influencer, I take a lot of breaks. Sometimes I have to disconnect. Because I can't help other people if I'm wounded. I can't help other people if I'm not my best self. And it goes to my whole PowerPoint of, it's okay to be selfish. And what I mean by that is, like, we've always looked at selfish as a negative thing. And no, it's okay. You have to put your peace, your mental health, your happiness. You got to put yourself first. If I'm gonna be the best husband, father, leader, I gotta be I cannot lead if I'm not right. But I think we put ourselves in positions through this social media world and this society through the lenses, is that we see who we see from that screen, but once we hit stop and we close our phones off, we shut our phones off, we close our computers, the realistic thing about life is what's going on in your household. The relationships you have with your significant other, the relationship you have with your kids. Are you happy? Are you complete? What is your real life like? We don't get to see that. We get to see the nice cars, the nice clothes, but it goes back. It's just like it's a challenge. And I think with me, I really show that. Like, maybe a few years ago, maybe 2016, I was traveling around the world speaking and going through a divorce at the same time. No one knew it. I lost my home. I lost a job. But I'm traveling, I'm speaking. And here it is, my world is crumbling. And so, when you look at it as well, at the time of, didn't have a relationship with my mom, couldn't stand her, couldn't be in her presence. And I was going through all of this, but yet standing so firm and strong, trying to help other people, not even realize, like, you're trying to help other people heal and you're neglecting yourself. So I use all of the things that I go through. I use all the things I've been through to help other people, let them know, listen, I'm still human, but I can teach you from my mistakes. I can show you from the things that I went through that can help you. So because here's the thing, what you go through, somebody else might go through it, but it might destroy them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it might take them down through a dark path. You know what I'm saying? So it's like giving people lessons and teachings through your own mistakes. You know what I'm saying? But you know what I mean? I love the fact that you said giving yourself grace, that it's okay to go through some things. Yeah. It's okay to hurt. It's okay to be like it's okay not to be okay. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But you know what I mean? You're gonna get through this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If you got through what you got through last time, you get through this too.
Yeah.
It didn't kill you last time. You're gonna get through this.
Totally. Let's do this. I'd love for you to kind of share, so that's what you're doing now. That's what you're going through. But, obviously, how did you get there? Obviously, you talked earlier about, being thrust into the foster care system, kind of going through that tumultuous thing, yet having contact with your family. Just kind of share with us a few of the moments that really kind of, directed your life, and then ultimately what came of that.
Yeah, I mean, my father, God rest his soul, he passed away in 2002. He committed suicide in 2002. I was incarcerated, but I was birthed from the type of individual. Let me say this: my parents was hurting and gave birth to a child in the midst of their traumas. My father didn't have a relationship with his father, nor did he have a relationship with his mom. My mom didn't have a relationship with her father and didn't have a relationship with her mom. And here it is, my father and my mom, who are both drug addicts at the time, gave birth to a kid into a world under these circumstances and conditions. So growing up, it was good and bad. But I remember more so the bad things than I do remember the good things. As a kid, I remember everything. I remember all the physical abuse my father caused to me, as far as physically beating me. I remember the molestations that happened to me 4 times before I was 11 years old. And it was because of both parents had drug addictions. I was put in places that I should never been in. I remember a lot of the bullying that people made fun of me because they knew my situations. I remember the insecurities that I didn't want to go to school because I was afraid people was going to pick at me because I'm wearing the same clothes twice. I remember not having food. I remember everything. And for years, I was ashamed. For years, I was torn. And so I used to store this pain, hurt, Tyler, and I was stored in places that caused me to have no compassion, no remorse, and no feelings for other people. So the only way I knew how to get this out of me is to cause pain and hurt to other people. So I did. I caused, at 13 years old, I was facing 24 years to life for attempted murder charge that I committed. And they was wanting to send me to adult court, but they kept me as a juvenile, Tyler. And I ended up doing 4 years in a facility that was conjunction with juveniles and adults. And I came home, I was placed back in the same environment, around the same people, no resources, no structure, no help. And we all know if you put a person back in the same environment with no guidance, you already know the direction that young kid is going to go. And I actually went that way. I ended up being 10 times worse than I was the first time. So strung out on pills, strung out on drugs, committing crimes. And by the age of 19, I was right back. I was facing 35 years to life for attempted murder charge that I committed again. I shot somebody in point blank range in broad daylight. And, those type of things was the norm. It wasn't abnormal to see shootings, violence, drugs. It wasn't abnormal to see police kicking in doors and hauling people out of their houses and hearing people scream. It was normal. It was my everyday life. And the fact that I became so used to it, desensitized, those things that I experienced as a kid, those traumatic experiences became so numbing to me that it didn't cause any pain. I didn't even realize the pains that I was causing to other people. And so facing 35 years to life, I ended up signing 10 years. And while I was in prison, I decided to give my life to Christ. I didn't grow up in church. My grandmother didn't raise me in church. My mom didn't raise me in church. So this was the first time in my life that I walked into a church in prison and I gave my life to Christ, not knowing what the outcome was going to be. I got to try something different. This was a different experience for me. And when I came home, I vowed that I would never go back. I vowed that I would continue to live my life for God and never, ever return back to the streets. And ever since then, when me giving my life to Christ, you know, I turned around and became a different creator. I mean, I'm sorry, a different creation. Yeah. And what I didn't understand then is that everything that I was going through, that I've been through, it had a purpose. Yeah. I didn't know it at the time. I didn't know the things that I was experiencing later on, years later, will put me in places that can help other people overcome because I can identify the trauma. But now I can be the example of those young men of what you can become if you choose a different route. You know, with me turning my life around. Go ahead.
Who was that example for you, or who? I'm wondering. You know, you said you didn't grow up with a background of faith or even that understanding, and yet here you're incarcerated, and through that process, someone somehow makes an impact on your life. And I'm looking at what you're doing now, and it was enough of an impact that you're like, I got to do this too for others.
Believe it or not, a lot of people ask me that, and I didn't. Okay. I didn't have that example of who to look at for inspiration. My whole entire life was just negative. It was just violence. So we didn't grow up in a household where we had people going to college. I have one uncle who went to college. One uncle in my whole entire family went to college. And the fact that, you know, I didn't have someone to look at for inspiration, I guess I had to look within myself for the inspiration. Yeah. And I think that's what it was. I had to look in the mirror and say, I have to do this for you. This is the life that you got to commit to. You've already seen what the life you come out of and what it gave you. Sure. This new life, this new direction, this new path, it has to be something that I have to want for myself. So I really was looking within myself for inspiration. And I just, again, that relationship I had with God, with Jesus, man, is like, gave me everything that I ever needed. And even on the path that I'm on now, the thing that I tell people, I did not choose this. Yeah. It chose me. And when I say that mainly because I literally never said I want to be an author. I never said I wanted to be a speaker. I never said I wanted to be who I am today. I was waking out of my sleep with a vision, and it scared the living crap out of me because it was almost like an inner body experience. And it scared me to the point to where I got up and I just started writing everything that I saw in a dream. And God just continued to give me visions and giving me signs. And I knew this is the life that God gave me. So it's a wonderful thing to when you allow God to enter in and allow him to work. He will lead the way. He will open up the doors. He will make the unqualified qualified, the unskilled skilled. And people ask that all the time. I be on stages with some of the greatest ones you can think of, or in maybe not on the same stage, but in that circle. And people like, you're so powerful. How did you? I'm like, I never attended anybody's seminar. I never attended anybody's webinar, nothing. I don't even follow speakers. I don't follow no speakers. This is God's doing. This is God's doing, Tyler.
Well, I think there's also a part of that, and you mentioned this earlier, the experiences you had. Hey, if you were surviving, right, And one of the things that I've learned, and you read this from, ancient texts, that, when you get into a survival situation, like you're going for food, like something more comes out of you. You're willing to be way more resourceful. And I think that's what I hear from you, but it's also what I gather is all that you put together and kind of facilitated, kind of got used to doing. This is what I need to do, just get through life. That conditioned you to do what you're doing now, but for a totally different reason, totally different purpose. It's not, drugs. It's not, whatever else. It's not crime. It is how can I serve and how can I help and how can I lead? Man, those are the same gifts. It's just used for positive and for positive impact rather than just survival.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I totally agree with you on that one too, because we may not understand it then, but as you look back, you're like, man, like, okay, I get it now. And, everything that I built my nonprofit on is about social development, things that I struggle with and identifying those things, what I struggle with, but how did I overcome it? When you look at my books that I wrote, my self-help books, my self-development books, is things that I struggle with and how did I overcome it? And so it's like, you taught yourself through your struggle.
Yep.
Man, and I think that's good right there. I taught myself during my struggle on how to learn from it. And I think that's one of the biggest things that when you look at people today is that, they look at the problem and not a solution.
Sure.
That's one of the things that I look at. Every problem is not a problem. It's a learning experience. It's a learning curve for me. And, if I can take back anything, I wouldn't. If I could say anything that I've learned from my past, absolutely. From my childhood, from my divorce, from my just like everything that I went through, I learned something doing everything. And I think what I could take away is that, how can I use that to help? Like there's some pains that I experienced, and there's somebody out there that's going through it that can learn from what I went through.
Yeah.
So how can I teach it? How can I expose it? And here's the thing. Not too many people like to expose themselves.
We want to stay guarded. We want to keep that armor on because it's more comfortable. It's not safer, but it's more comfortable.
Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing that when you look at it is that are we okay with being content, or are we truly saying we live in, again, not everybody is God-fearing, walking in that faith, but are you saying that I am okay with staying this way, or God continue to use me? Like everything that I really go through, I really want God to use me in it. Use me. Find a reason, find a way to help. And I think here's the thing. What helps me be more relatable to a society that's going through some things is that people really tune in with me to be inspired, but they realize, dude, you're human, and you're not afraid to be transparent and to expose and open up yourself to allow people to see, listen, you're going to make mistakes. Life is going to throw some blows at you. Life will body slam you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like listen, I don't care who you are, how successful you are. Life is going to do what it is intended to do. And that's not allow you to be who God called you to be. Totally. And that's what, just because you think that you serving God and you worshiping God and you have faith in God, listen, let me tell you something. It's not an easy walk. No. We struggle with the flesh every single day. And then we can look at our bank accounts and say, man, I have faith and trust God's going to make a way. But we also see that our account is declining. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, me and the wife, we ain't seeing eye to eye. Listen, I trust and believe, God, that you're going to provide for us the structure and the safety that we need to make sure that we cultivate some healthy habits. But we can't deny that these intense conversations me and our spouse having, listen, I'm tired of it. You know what I'm saying? We know, like we can't continue sheltering and trying to protect and guard that. Like, no, man, there's some people who need to see that, man, listen, I listen to you every day, Tyler. I love your messages. But Tyler, like, just to see how transparent you are about your own personal struggles, it really gives me hope.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we come. Go ahead.
To me, that's being genuine and authentic. And if we circle this back to leadership, to me, and listeners have heard this, and I hear this from you. The person that's authentic and genuine, people will follow. It's the person that is fake, the person that's, sitting there with all their accolades or cars or, I shouldn't say cars, should say possessions or whatever that may be. And yet they're not saying, hey, I'm struggling every day. This is what's really important. Don't miss what's really important. I believe that's where we have a difficulty. I want to take that and then input this and say, when you're sitting down and you're meeting with kids and you're meeting with, the kid that you were, that 12 or 13-year-old that's in the midst of, some of the toughest that you're going at, how are you connecting with them and saying, follow me, there's a better way, not for me, but for you.
But for you.
What's that main tension that they're seeing right now that you can say, no. There's a better way.
The reality of their reality is that the fact that they understand that who they are in the situations that they're in, but the real reality is the fact that they got to return and still live in the conditions and experience those experiences despite of. And it's one of the things that, that allowed me to go to school. It wasn't for the education. It was to escape my reality. And, it's almost like a high. It's like a dopamine high. Like I expose the kids to opportunities and places, taking them camping, taking them to the mountains, taking them fishing, just giving them that exposure to different things. Then they know once this is over, I got to go back to a place that I really don't want to be or be a part of. And that's the tug of war. That's the tug of war that I deal with every single day, not just with youth, but just with people.
Sure.
We as human beings, we in tug of war with ourselves every single day. We know we want more out of life. We know what we would love to strive to become, but we also know the reality part, like I'm not where I need to be right now, and certain things are stopping me, but I'm trying. I'm giving efforts every single day, and our young people are dealing with it as well. Our kids are watching, and that's how they're learning. They're not watching, like the words that I tell you as a young man that I will speak to is that, yes, you can become. If you try, you give forth effort, you give it your best every single day. Yes, it's true, but those words have to be put into action. And if we understand the power in words, I can inspire you, but the moment that you get to yourself is what you tell yourself. Like we listen to the T.D. Jakeses, we listen to the Eric Thomases and the Tony Robinsons, and we listen to the powerful words like, oh my God, it's so powerful. But the words that matter the most is the words you speak to yourself.
Oh, yes.
That at the end of the day, the most powerful word that you can ever hear is the words you speak to yourself. And that's what I always try to teach my young men, is to speak life regardless of the situations that you're in. Speak life regardless of what you're going through. Speak life no matter how you feel. And that's the biggest thing that I feel like this generation is struggling with the most. They only can speak life only if someone or something accepts them. And so when I say someone or something accepts them, we're living in a social media world. That's where our kids spend majority of their time. TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. And, it's about how many followers, how many views, how many likes, who shared. So my life is based upon validation. And it's not just youth. It's people. And so that's the words now is not based upon what you hear from other people, is what you say to yourself. So my struggle has always been, I can teach you, But the most important thing, are you applying yourself to the information? And I always tell kids, don't be fooled. Knowledge is not power. Knowledge has never been power. Applied knowledge is power. If you apply yourself to anything that you learn, you can change your situation.
The piece there that you stress, I mean, there's two. There really is. It's like, we can take people out of the painful reality, right? We can take people to events. We can go and even listen to this wherever, is listening and watching, whatever. You're taking time away from a reality. You're hopefully gaining knowledge. You're hopefully getting inspiration, but yet you're going to leave this. You're going to turn it off and you're going to go be in something else. What's going to change there? And to me, that's the second point. Is if you can stress, and I've had a friend stress this upon me. Colin Henderson says, our actions are always, it's the second time we've thought about it. We think about it first and then we think and do. And it's like, to your point here, the words you speak to yourself are the most powerful you'll ever hear.
Yes.
And it's what are we doing to change those words? And I think back and I'm trying to paint this picture of experience and understanding. It's like, the 13-year-old that you get to go talk to and sit beside and say, hey, I know what you're going through. I know you're telling people this is the pathway. I know people are telling you you're in their survival mode and you're struggling. Stick with it. Stay the path. Take this high road. Do that because it sucks right now. It's going to be tough. It's going to be difficult. But if you tell yourself you can get through it, when you get through it, you'll be able to accomplish anything. I can just imagine those are the words you're telling people, right?
Yeah.
Because that's everything you've told me so far.
Yes. And I think too is consistency. Me putting myself in situations, Tyler, to where I'm speaking life into some lifeless bodies. I'm speaking life. 2020, 2 kids that was in my program was killed. One was 14 years old. The other one was 16 years old. And just imagine one kid that I knew in 2021, 12 years old, hung himself. And I knew this kid. Programs in the county jail where majority of the population, I had 24 kids in my program in the county jail, the Jew facility. Out of the 24, 17 from the ages 15 to 17 years old was in there for first and second degree murder. You're talking about 15 years old through 17 years old, incarcerated. They know their life is gone, but they still don't understand the act that they committed. And so you gotta understand that so many of these young people are in situations that they don't understand it. They don't really truly comprehend it. And it goes back to what I was saying earlier, is that, the pain that I was experiencing as a kid, I understood it, but I couldn't really truly comprehend.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
This is what you said, because it's survival. And at that point,
survival.
It's kind of like they say, all goes in love and war. And it's like, I would say to that extent, it's survival. It's like, dude, I did this because if it was that or it was me.
It was me.
And so you put me in that situation. What am I going to do? Exactly. And that's a hard reality that I think that I'm hearing from you, that we don't, a general population, general society, like just your everyday walking around, does not understand the real. And as you're sharing with me, the real situations that people are put in every day, where it's kind of like, how could you make that decision? Oh, how could I not? That's what I'm hearing from you.
Absolutely. And that's what separates those from most people. When you look at young people and you look at, let's just look at it. Most people grow up without the opportunities to get the exposure. And so they go from the 13-year-old to the 21-year-old to the 30-year-old to the 40-year-old, and still nothing changes. And let's just look at it, the fact that we are looking for so many people to understand, and how can we get you from one mindset of living to a different mindset of what you can have and start thriving. All I know is this. All I know is the struggle. All I know is to the trauma. All I know is to, to deal with. And I can't help but say this. That's what we have today in the urban communities. We have parents raising kids who are still struggling with their own personal traumas. We have fathers who don't know how to father because they was never shown how to father. So we have a generational pattern that will continue to display what word I'm looking for, but they continue to display how the life of this younger generation will grow to become. But I think, to me, when you look at it, though, Tyler, it's like, this is all a person know. And I am the example. And so I broke that chain. I broke that pattern. And you can be an author, regardless if no one in your family ever told you that you could write a book. You can be successful, even if there's no one in your family. You hear what I'm saying? Like, you can be an amazing parent, even if your parents never showed you. You know what I mean? Here it is. I'm an amazing husband and father, but I was never shown how to be a father. I was never shown how to be a supportive a husband. You know what I mean? No one ever told me that I can write books. You know what I'm saying? When you look at, you talking about, 2 books that I've written, you know what I'm saying? And no one ever told me that I can write my own books.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? No one ever told me that I can be who I am today. So I think when you look at Arkevious, like, he is the perfect example that can give somebody that hope, the faith, and the thing that's hard for so many people. They don't want to go through the process of becoming. You know what I'm saying? The process, it may take years. It may take longer than what you expect. And see, everybody is ready for the change now. Everybody wants to get out of what they're dealing with now. So the process for me was 17 years, brother.
I get you.
That's a long time. Mm-hmm. That's a long time. And see, that's what a lot of people don't want to go through. They don't want to go through the process. They want change now. They want to get out of what they're in right now. And it doesn't work that way.
Well, to me, that comes back to what you said earlier. It was all the experiences that led to the change, that there was no fast forward there.
It wasn't.
And I've gone through that in my life. And as you're sharing that, it's like I've gone through that. And I think a lot of people listening probably have. But our choice is to have that mindset that it's possible.
It's possible.
And embrace the process. But then I also hear the other part of this is like, be willing to share it with others, to say, hey, it's possible.
It's possible.
If we think about it's possible, man, it's amazing the impact that we can start to have instead of just saying, well, I am where I am. Or, everyone's sick of hearing. It's like, reality is like, no, it's most people don't hear it enough. And I think that's the great opportunity. That to me is the opportunity that you're sharing with people is like, hey, this may not sink in today, but I'm going to plant the seed. You can be what I've become. You can be, what you aspire to be. You don't have to stay stuck in the situation where you're at now, just because that's all you see. From a leadership perspective, I think that is powerful. That's vision, and coming beside it by continuing to have those passionate words like, this is the vision, this is the opportunity, but I'm going to stick here and I'm going to walk with you.
And man, God, I use Jesus as an example of leadership because he showed you, and he was there, and he had enough faith that what he told you and showed you, he was able to walk away and trust that you would do it. And I think one of the things that I deal with on a consistent basis is that most of my teachings are me showing you, helping you. But I always say, you got to take it from here and go forward. You know, one of the struggles that I deal with on it every day when I deal with people is that some people get it and some people don't. But, you know, you got to want it for yourself. And I teach that.
Yep.
This change that people see today, I wanted it. I wanted it. And I was willing to make a commitment to myself and stick to that commitment, that no matter what I go through, I'm not going back. No matter what hill I got to climb, I'm going to persevere. No matter what valley I got to go through, I'm going to come up out that thing. I'm not going back. I've been where I've been, and I don't like where it was. I don't like what it gave me. I don't like where it took me. I'm not going back. And sometimes what a lot of people got to understand is that, you know, you have to learn to be okay with being to yourself. And when you to yourself, I promise you, there's some lonely nights. There's some dark nights. There's some moments where you're going to think back of some of the things you went through and experienced. Being to yourself is not good. Why? Because you got to face that ugly person. You know what I'm saying? That ugly person has been through a lot. There's a lot of trauma. There's a lot of abuse. There's a lot of pain. And you have to face that person. The reason why so many people can't move forward, because they okay with being where they at. And it's comfort. You said it earlier. It's about being comfortable. And I tell people right now, we got to get out of that comfort zone. You know,
it's getting to the point where the pain of change is no longer seems greater than the pain that you're in. And, you know, as much as, you know, that's sad and that's trifle, it doesn't matter. Any change is painful, but it's understanding that process is worth it.
Yes.
And it's knowing that there's more for me in that rather than just staying where I'm at now, because, you know, then it's either you go down, you stay the same, but the only way to go up is you got to put in the work. You got to do the work. You got to reflect. You got to work at it. So
I have one of the sessions that I teach about stretching.
There you go.
And I still got some here. I always keep rubber bands here, man. So I always, when I go speak, sometimes I love to teach with examples. I don't know what it is about examples. I hear you. It draws me. Things about stretching. It is stretching beyond the familiar shape of something that it was designed to be, but it has the potential to be more than what it was designed to be. Like, it can be used for so many other things, but I have so many different ways of showing. But anytime you stretch, anytime you grow, anytime you move from something, you can never be the same as you was before. And I love that, because when God gave me who I am today, he gave this to me. Like this, like, I don't care what nobody say. I don't take credit. I give myself credit, but I give God all the credit. He gave this to me, and I am not the same. I'm not who I used to be. That's why I can talk about the past the way I do, because you can't help but see all the great things I've become now. You know, and so, you know, the things that you see now, it has a reason. It has a root. So this is why you do what you do at the level that you do it. I can't help it, because God saved me, brother. You hear what I'm saying? God delivered me. You know what I'm saying? And so being delivered from out of something, you don't look like what you've been through.
Totally. Arkevious, thanks, man. This has been great. I mean, so many nuggets, so many great things. I mean, all the different pieces. I appreciate you spending time with me.
Absolutely.
Being a guest. And, dude, man, I can't wait to get to know you better and hear more.
Hey, listen, man, I think we can first, I want to say thank you, man. Anything that can empower people to help other people out, I'm always for it. Anytime you need me, brother, listen, man, don't be hesitant at all. Don't be hesitant at all. So, man, I'm looking forward to this week. It's next week. Is it this?
No, it's this week. We're recording this on the 2nd. We have an event on the 4th.
So this in 2 more days
later in the month. Yeah. Get ready.
Hey, listen, I stay. So, man, listen, man, I wish you nothing but the best, and I look forward to hearing what you're going to be coming with, brother.
We'll make sure in the show notes we have all the different ways that you can learn more about Arkevious, see his information, see his videos, his website, all the socials, all those things. Arkevious, thanks for being here, man.
Man, thank you so much, Tyler.
Man, Arkevious is obviously, we just met each other. We have a mutual friend, John Eads, that connected us. You've heard John before. He's been a guest on this podcast. I teased this in the opening. I'm going to close it now. See, when we have a mindset that that's what life looks like, it's not until we change our mindset, until we build the process and embrace the process to change our environment. Like he said, like I pointed out, my friend Colin Henderson has shared with me, the words you speak to yourself are the most powerful words you will ever hear. Our words change our mindset. You've heard that from me, from other guests, from, hearing this again. If you are willing to change the words that you speak to yourself, man, you can accomplish anything. It really ties into belief. I'd like to share this with you right now, process of starting up a brand new pathway for the impact driven. We have the book club, man. It's a free community you can be a part of. Right now, we're reading the book right behind me, Becoming a Changemaker by Alex Budak. I hope you listen to that episode. Phenomenal. But as well, I want to invite you to be a part of the roundtable here starting in February of 2023. And we're going to go through a completely different process. We're going to learn to awaken. We're going to grow and we're going to lead. I'd love for you to be a part of that. If you're able to make it to the workshop that we did, great. You've already gotten exposure to that. Don't worry. I will open up another workshop so we can walk through this process. But I'd love for you to join the roundtable, to have those conversations where we talk about awakening as a leader, growing and leading, ultimate leading to impact. I'm excited for this change adjustment in the roundtable, and I know it's going to deliver so much more value to everyone else. I hope that you take part in it. I know there's a spot for you. I know you'll get value from it. Thanks for listening. Make sure to subscribe. I'd love to hear what you thought about Arkevious' story. What moved you? What really jumped out at you as something impactful? Thanks for being here. Till next time, have a good one.